L'chaim, everybody. Another week. As Chazkel just said before the class started, let's build the temple. Let's do it, because that's what we talked about last week. We read the Midrash, where it said that Hashem told Yechezkel, the prophet, to tell the Jewish people about the dimensions of the upcoming temple. And Yechezkel thought that was a bit offensive. He's like, why would you tell the Jewish people when they can't do anything about it? They're in exile now. Let them come back to Israel, and then we'll give them that. And what did Hashem say? Just because my kids are in exile, the building of my house should be canceled? No. Teach them the laws. And when they learn the laws of building the temple, it'll be considered as if they built it.
Before or after the Mashiach comes?
Before. No, not to build it physically. We should study about it before Mashiach comes. And when we study about it before Mashiach comes, that's like building it. Well, Hashem said that to Yechezkel about the second temple. The Rebbe applied it also to the third temple.
So you can't start laying the bricks down?
Huh? No. We can't start putting away the bricks.
No, come on.
No. But we could lay the spiritual bricks by studying what there is to study. And believe me, there's a wealth to study. Every time we study it, Hashem says, I consider it as if you've contributed to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So in a sense, when we learn tonight about the Beis Hamikdash, we are constructing it. So let's hand out these booklets that we started using last week. We'll pass them down this way and that way. Unfortunately, my beautiful poster that I printed last week, I don't know where it is. We tried to search the cameras and I don't know what happened. But
we're missing a poster.
I do have a little replacement.
The dog ate it.
I got a model. I got a model Beis Hamikdash.
3D printer. How big was this poster?
How big was the poster? 3 feet by 2 feet? I don't know. It was a big poster.
It was a good size.
It was a nice size. This model is sold by a Jewish company. My younger brother Zalman, who usually comes sometimes to the classes, he put it together. Now he's in camp. But he gave this to me and he said I should use it. We've been using it in the Rambam classes because the Rambam that we're learning nowadays, every day we do a chapter, is all about the temple. And I figured if we're going to study about the Beis Hamikdash, we could also use it. I know it's a little small, so I'll try to show what I can. This is supposed to be scaled down accurately. It's supposed to represent accurate scale of the relationship of the different structures. They couldn't, of course, include everything here, just because of space constraint, but the major stuff are pretty much in location. There's actually a fascinating story around that. In 1992, there was a rabbi named Rabbi Levanoni in Israel who decided to embark on a scale model, but a proper scale model of the temple according to the Rambam, according to Maimonides. And he had it down to the millimeters. The way he scaled it was, I think he said 1 millimeter per half a cubit or whatever it was, because in the temple everything was amma, was the cubit, the biblical cubit. And he built an entire map, and this is on video. He brought it to the Rebbe. On Sunday dollars, he dragged the whole model, big model. They kind of wiggled it through the door, and he wanted the Rebbe to take a look at it and to enjoy it, because he knew how much the Rebbe, enjoyed and had a koch, like we say in Yiddish. Rebbe was very involved in the Beis Hamikdash. So and it was the Rambam. Rebbe was big on the Rambam as well. So the Rambam's opinion on the Beis Hamikdash was a very big deal. And he brought it to the Rebbe, and he's kind of, showing proudly off his work. The Rebbe looked at it, and you see on the video about 3-4 seconds. And the Rebbe says, it seems to me that the ramp of the altar, the ramp of the Mizbeach is off.
Somebody's dropping.
So he said, he got a little flustered, and he said, no, we measured it. Everything was measured down to the millimeter. And the Rebbe said, okay, I trust you. Like, the Rebbe didn't engage further. Anyway, he went back to his lab, and he checked, and indeed it was off by, I think he said, 2 or 3 millimeters on the scale. He was blown away.
That's crazy.
And in seconds, in a matter of seconds, the Rebbe spotted it. So, if you want to be truly scaled, you got to be really, really precise. and exact, but this is a basic representation.
To be a tzaddik connected so high above that you see things in a very different way.
That's true. A tzaddik does have a different vision. He wasn't doing it only mathematically. It was, you see the truth of things.
See the truth.
Incidentally, can I say another story? Nothing to do with the Beis Hamikdash, but just because you said about a tzaddik seeing things differently. There was once a great tzaddik, one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov, who was by a table, was being served something, maybe a tea or a coffee, and he asked for some milk. And there was a bottle of milk on the table. And somebody said, there's a bottle of milk on the table. He said, where? I don't see it. And I said, what do you mean? It's like right in front of you. And he said, I don't see it. Within a few minutes, it emerged that the milk was not properly kosherly milked. And it actually wasn't kosher. It was not supervised by a Jew. A Jew has to watch the milking. And then this Rebbe, he said, now I understand the meaning of the Talmud. The Talmud, when it describes non-supervised milk, it says, Chalav shechalavo goy ve'ein Yisrael ro'ehu. Milk that was milked by a Gentile and a Jew didn't see it. That's a literal translation. If it was milked by a Gentile and the Jew didn't see the milking. So this Rebbe said, I have a deeper pshat. When milk is milked by a goy, a real Jew doesn't see it. A Jew who's connected
Sees it.
No, he doesn't even see the milk. Because it's so a tzaddik sees things differently. So the Rebbe saw this, immediately, and he was blown away. He talks about it on an interview. You can see it online. Maybe I'll post a link to it on the in the chat. At any rate, that's what we're learning about. And this model does have the three central elements of the Holy Temple. Last week we talked more about the structure around it, the Temple Mount. But we did touch a little bit on the building itself. Just to mirror this, if you want to look in the booklet, the mirror of this is essentially, let's call it page 219. Page 219 is the mirror image of this. Right? The blue, this is the blue square that represents the women's courtyard. The green is this square that represents what's called the Azara, the temple courtyard, and the pink is the actual temple structure, the building itself, where the vessels were housed, where the Holy of Holies was, etc.
How much different was the first temple from the second?
Very different. First and second were very different, and the third will be even different.
Second temple.
This is the common understanding of the second temple structure.
So what is the first temple? The original one?
The first one, it's not so clear. We have some images of some depictions. Again, we don't have any pictures, obviously. We have some depictions of it, some sketches. I can show you one maybe later. I don't have my stuff with me, but this is the second, yeah. There's some, let's say the Rambam, Maimonides, for example, his big difference with most of the commentaries' second temple model is that it was a complete square, the structure, as was on the poster last week. That was the Rambam's full square. Most commentaries have it as a T. T.
This might be a really dumb question, but if we were to rebuild the temple now that we have the real estate, and would it be sacrilegious, like I think in Memphis there's like a replica of the Parthenon, but like looking at that, like why wouldn't somebody like try to do it like in real
Yes.
scale? Would that be like a shanda to do that?
Yes. So two things. First, in order to build the Holy Temple in its proper place, it needs to be done by the instruction of a prophet. Because the prophet needs to tell us the place of the Holy of Holies accurately, and the place of the altar, the Mizbeach, which stood right outside, has a very, very precise place. It's a place that was exact since the days of creation. Adam was created from this very point. And Noah, when he came off the Teva after the flood, he offered sacrifices here. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob offered sacrifices at this very spot. and later it was built into the altar, so it has to be done by the instruction of a prophet. That's for the
But it
actual
can't be
location.
The prophet that, we can't just go back to.
No, we have to do it by the instruction at the time. And the temple, to make a replica is forbidden. It's forbidden to make an exact replica of the Beis Hamikdash. A scale model for learning is totally fine. But a replica in building, that's in the Rambam and in Jewish law, that's forbidden.
So if I buy the land in the desert and I try to scale this model, that would
Right,
be good.
right. No good. Now,
There was somebody who did it
what?
in the time.
Beis Chanyai? Okay, my brother is referencing a small episode in which there was a man who tried to make a replica of the Beis Hamikdash, and some people actually served in it. They tried to conduct some kind of a service, but it wasn't accepted by the sages at the time. You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. Anyone ever seen this book? Okay. This is called Encyclopedia Talmudit, the Talmudic Encyclopedia. This was an incredible idea that was pioneered by Rabbi Cook. Rav Cook. Yes. Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook. He wrote in one of his books that he foresaw somebody creating a project that would distill every single Talmudic topic in encyclopedic form with the basics of the primary opinions surrounding these things, if there are any arguments about it. And he said this would be a game changer for Talmudic study. And because of his vision, they got together this group in Israel, and it's early, even before it was founded. The first volume came out in 1947. Yes, it took time to formulate the exact way they would go about, how they would, because whenever you make an encyclopedia, you got to decide on some rules. It's still ongoing. You may not believe it. There's 52 volumes out. They're up to the letter Mem. They started from Aleph, and they're up to Mem. They're about halfway through. It's seen, different editors in chief as they passed. They worked till they passed, and then when they passed, it was taken over. So this is one of the earliest volumes. This is volume 3. This is the volume that has the entry for Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple. In 1976, when the Rebbe came out with the campaign to begin learning temple issues during this time, he personally commissioned a special printing of the entry Beis Hamikdash. So in this volume, you have close to 200 entries of different Talmudic topics. But right here, on page 224, it starts, Beis Hamikdash, it says, and then it goes through giving you everything you need to know Talmudically about the Beis Hamikdash. It's about 20 pages, from 224 to 244. And the Rebbe had them print it, just this booklet. And he said, give it out, and everybody should study from it.
English or Hebrew?
It's all Hebrew. But funny enough, you mentioned Beis Chanyai. In the same book, they cover that building of Beis Chanyai, so I just decided to take a look at it. In which there was one of the high priests in the Second Temple, Shimon HaTzadik, said, when he died, he said that he wanted a specific son to take him over in his position at the high priest. This boy's name was Chanyai. And he had another brother whose name was Shimi. Shimi got jealous. He was 2.5 years older than him. And it's pretty horrific. He said, listen, let me teach you. Dad wants you to be the high priest. Let me teach you how it's done. And he basically put him in a straitjacket. Yeah, trapped him in and put him onto the Mizbeach. And basically made a libel against him. And they basically chased him out of the temple because of it. The whole thing, bottom line is, the rest of the Kohanim made a coup, and they chased him out. He ran away to Egypt. And because of that, he built this altar, this little replica of the Beis Hamikdash out in Egypt towards the time of the Second Temple over there.
The chosen brother or the older brother?
The chosen brother was forced out. Yeah.
Because he was traumatized by that.
But
Yes.
he got mad and
Yes, that's one version. The other version is the opposite. That he said to the other son should be the high priest, and the younger son got jealous, and the younger son did the libel on the older son, but the older son revealed the libel, and they ended up chasing the younger son out. Anyway, the bottom line is the same thing. The younger son ended up building this Beis Hamikdash. And there's a big argument about whether it has a status of temple or not. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is because this book is very much tied to this concept of learning these laws. Now, let's take a look at some of the things that went on in this temple structure. So, there is a bunch of information in this book. We're not going to go through everything, just to give you a little taste, but you can always read more. What I'm going to do now is corresponding to page 218. We were before on 219, I'm going back to 218. And we want to talk a little bit about this courtyard, the women's courtyard. The reason that it was called the women's courtyard is not because this is where the women hung out. It was called the women's courtyard because at least once a year that we know of for sure, when the women came to take part in one of the temple ceremonies, they would stand on a balcony that ran along the edge of this entire courtyard over here. And that was on Sukkot. On Sukkot, even till today, we have what's called Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the joyous dancing and singing on Sukkot. In the temple, it was because of a water ceremony. Once a year, they would bring, all year round, they brought wine on the altar. On Sukkot, they used to bring water on the altar. And they would go down to the spring in Jerusalem. They would get water, bring it back. It was a very, very joyous ceremony. They would dance all night. They would dance in the temple all night, and then in the morning, they would go get the water. And the Talmud talks about different rabbis that used to take part. And it was the only time of year, basically, when the rabbis would go a little bit out of their comfort zone. Like today, you want to catch a rabbi a little bit wild, you come on Simchat Torah at the happiest day of the year. So you came on Sukkot. There was some rabbis that used to juggle 8 eggs. Wow. There was a rabbi who used to juggle 8 cups of wine without dropping a drop. He didn't spill. The gravity, he would hold it and the wine wouldn't spill. There was another rabbi who would dance, do some flips. Another rabbi would juggle torches. Juggling was a big thing. Yeah. And they would dance all night, and then in the morning they would go draw the water. So this was done in this space. But in order for the women to have part in it, they were allowed to stand on the balcony. This is the origins of the mechitza. Yeah. The idea of a women's gallery came from here. It came from the Beis Hamikdash, where the women were upstairs, the men were downstairs. Today, in many, even our synagogue, that's how it is. And in others, it's lowered, so it's on the same level. But the point of separating men and women, this is where it originated in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, that was only once a year. The rest of the year, it functioned as part of the Beis Hamikdash. And there was 4 chambers here in the 4 corners for basically what we'll call major temple uses. Everyday needs of the temple were taken care of in these 4 chambers. So, just following the order, if you want to kind of look at, if you're looking at page 218 and you're kind of looking up at the model here, so you're seeing, this is the way you're seeing it. Top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left. This one right here, the top right, was called the Chamber of the Wood. And it's fascinating that we're learning about this today, because today in the Rambam, our daily Rambam chapter, we're talking about how Kohanim have to be physically beautiful. Physical appearance had to be tip-top in order to serve in the temple. If you had a deformity or a blemish, which the Rambam lists 140 specific blemishes, you couldn't serve in the temple. Believe it or not, having glasses is considered a blemish.
Wow.
Yes. If your eyes didn't function fully 20/20, you couldn't serve in the temple. Lefties are considered to be blemished. Yes.
I'm toast on 2.
That's you're toast on 2.
Lefties are blemish. Wow.
Yes.
Politically too.
Huh?
Politically too.
Well, okay. But if a Kohen had a blemish, if a Kohen had a deformity, he couldn't serve. However, what did they do? You didn't just go home. You didn't just do nothing. The Kohanim who had blemishes would spend their time in this chamber, and they would check the wood that was going to be used on the altar to burn the sacrifices.
Wow.
That was their job, because the wood couldn't be wormy. It had to be perfect. Everything in the temple had to be perfect. It was the ultimate place of harmony on this earth. So they would stand in here and they would check for the wood.
Where did the wood come from?
Huh?
Who chopped the wood?
Who chopped the wood? That's a very good question. So, the Talmud talks about it. There were 9 families, nine Jewish families that came to the temple's aid when they needed it. In the beginning of the Second Temple era, when Ezra came back from Babylonia with the Jewish people to build the Second Temple, there was a time when there was no wood in the storage. And 9 families came forward and they donated, of their own volition, wood to the altar. And because of that, they received the rights to keep on supplying if they wanted. Not only that, the day on which their family originally brought the wood was a holiday for that family for generations, and they would come to the temple on that day and make a big celebration. So you can imagine, it's like the Kohen who comes to shul and he always gets called to the Kohen, and this guy always gets this aliyah, this guy always opens the ark. These families, they brought the wood. That was their thing.
Where did they bring it from?
Huh?
Where did they bring
From the
it?
forests. Doesn't say from where. From the forests.
Very much trees in
Huh? There's plenty of forest in Israel.
It was a big place.
Yeah. There was even a time that one of the governments did not want to allow people to bring wood to the temple, so they didn't want to have the sacrifices going. And some members of these families, what they did was they built wooden ladders. And they transported them through the checkpoints under the guise of ladders. And then when they got into Jerusalem, they would undo them and bring them to the temple. And
They're pretty smart. That's great.
the Yiddish cup,
Yeah.
the Jewish head, and they brought him in that way. So that was the wood. Okay. Yes. Please. Amos or Amma is the singular. Amos is the plural. Amma is translated as a cubit. In modern dimensions, it's 18 inches.
Foot and a half.
A foot and a half. That's the common understanding. The Chazon Ish said that it was actually 2 feet, 24 inches. So the opinions.
135 amos is about.
So 135, it's between. Yeah, you multiply it by either 1.5 or 2, depending on which opinion you want to go with. Somewhere around there. Yeah, it wasn't big. When you start doing the math, you realize it wasn't very big at all. But this was part of the miracle. So that's the thing on the wood. Then, if we go here and here, these two, these were basically where there were special rituals going on. Right over here on the top left was for people with tsaras. We don't have tsaras nowadays. We have 2 portions on it in the Torah. It's the we have the quarantine part, but not the lesions part. When you got certain colored lesions on your skin, if they qualified as impure, you had to be sent outside the camp. And there was a whole procedure where when you became pure, you had to go to the mikveh. There was an actual mikveh in here. In this chamber, there was a mikveh.
So that's right before when they can return.
Yes. So they would come in here, go to the mikveh, and do their purification process in here. Similar concept for a Nazirite was this chamber for a Nazirite. Somebody takes a vow to become a Nazirite, grow his hair long, not going to drink wine, etc. He would go in here. We don't have much detail in our literature about what exactly went on. We know there was a big pot in here because they used to cook the sacrifice. An entire cow, a ram, would have to be cooked. After being slaughtered, would be cooked in here. And he would cut his hair in this chamber for the first time, and he would burn the hair under the pot which the sacrifice was cooking in. That's as described in the Torah. So that would go on in this chamber.
Or was that a separate?
No, there were no women's mikvahs on premises of the temple. The last one over here was, you can see it's called the oil house. All the oil reserves needed in the temple. There were many oil reserves. You needed oil for the menorah. You needed oil for the libations. Almost every sacrifice was accompanied with oil. So,
Not the Hanukkah story where they went to go look.
the Hanukkah story, they definitely went in here. Yeah. There was no pure oil.
For the libation.
Huh?
Why did you need
Every sacrifice was accompanied with flour, wine, and oil.
And what is the oil for?
It was just brought on the Mizbeach. Hashem likes oil.
They mixed it with the flour.
Huh?
They mixed it with the...
Yeah. Bilula. So that's the spiel on the women's courtyard, okay? Now, see, this is one of the things that the model is a problem. Because the model, they couldn't make all the steps. But going up from here to this gate leading into the actual temple courtyard, there were 15 steps. 15 semicircle steps. Do they talk about it? Yeah, they talk about it on page 219. You see it?
Yep.
I'll show you the 15 circle
15
steps.
yeah.
Yes. On Sukkot, when everybody was partying in here, the Levites would sing. They would stand on these steps and sing.
Sorry.
As a matter of fact, if you open up Psalms, if you open up Tehillim, chapter 120 till chapter 134, 15 chapters, all begin with the word Shir HaMa'alot, a song of ascents. But the word Ma'alot actually means steps. And it's told, as our tradition, that King David composed, he had the plans for the temple. He knew how it was going to look. And he composed 15 psalms to be recited in connection with these 15 steps. Shir HaMa'alot, a song of ascents. This is the song of ascending these steps. Yeah. And once you hit the top of the step, you would enter this massive gate through which you went into the temple courtyard. And this gate, as you can see on 219, was called Nicanor's gate. You know the story of Nicanor's gate? Okay.
Wow.
Fascinating story about Nicanor's gate. Slava knows it, so
Slava knows it.
you can touch your nose. Every single gate in the Holy Temple was pure gold, except for these ones. These ones were copper. And the reason they were copper was because of Nicanor's, oops, there it goes. Because of Nicanor's story. Nicanor was a Jew who decided that he wanted to make something special for the Holy Temple. He traveled to Egypt, to Alexandria, and he commissioned these massive doors. He wanted them to be doors for the temple. And it took a while. They made them, transported them to the port, and he loaded them onto the boat that he was going to be using to travel to the temple. Huh? Oh, what happened? They got onto the sea, and a storm broke out. And when you have a storm and you're dealing with primitive boats, weight is everything.
Yeah.
Because if there's too much weight, then
Sink.
it's going to sink. So what did they start doing? People started throwing off luggage. This guy's throwing off a suitcase, and then someone's like, no, what are we throwing off suitcases? There's these doors that weigh a ton. So they said, Nicanor, you got to throw this door off the ship. He said, absolutely not. This is a donation for Hashem. This is not going anywhere. And a little fight ensued, and in the end, they overthrew one of the doors. They threw one of the doors into the ocean. And then Nicanor said, if you want to throw the second door, you're going to throw me with it. He held onto the door, and he said, it's either both of us or the door. And essentially, just around that moment, the waters calmed. But he was a little depressed because he only has one door. And when they pulled up at the port, the second door floated to the surface. As a miracle, floated up, and he brought them both to the Beis Hamikdash. And because of that, as a distinct sign of honor to him and the miracle that happened with the door, they left it as is. And it says in the Gemara that the copper of this door shone like the gold. It shone as brightly as the gold. It was so polished and so exquisite. And it occupied this central space. I mean, literally, you're walking in to the main temple structure. The courtyard is right there, Nicanor's gate. I know it looks small, but it was 20 amos tall, so 30 feet tall. 30 feet tall.
30 to 40 feet.
Huh?
30 to 40 feet.
30 to 40 feet, yes?
Good.
Yeah, because we're going right between 1.5 and 2.
Yeah, it's 18.
Somewhere there. And yeah, And that was his thing.
Do you know that there's another version of who Nicanor was?
No, what's the other version of who Nicanor was? I never knew that. Listen to this. The Jerusalem Talmud records that Nicanor was a Greek general who threatened to destroy Jerusalem and the temple, and the Hashmonaim defeated him. They cut off his head and hung it at the eastern gate of the temple. This is in the spirit of today.
That's what I'm saying.
This is literally in the spirit of today.
Oh my goodness.
And it became known of the evil, Nicanor's gate. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, and they even write in this message. In the last 48 hours, two of the things. Okay, so they connected it. All right. So this talk of Nicanor reminds me of there's another gate. Again, it's not to scale fully, but one of the gates in the actual temple courtyard was called the Gate of Parva. And Parva, according to one tradition, was a magician, an Egyptian magician who wanted to observe the service of the temple. Believe it or not, he built a tunnel. He built a tunnel underground, and it came up inside the temple courtyard. Apparently, he used black magic, and this was part of the thing. And he wanted to come see, and they caught him, and they beheaded him.
Good.
And they named the gate after him. We're always naming these gates after the
You're
people.
saying there's nothing creatively, intelligently new at Hamas or Hezbollah?
Nothing.
They still pull the same stuff.
So what was the gate?
Anyway, this is the stuff that they don't tell you in school, but you
What
know,
was the gate called?
Parva.
it's not a gate. It's a little room. Lishkat Beit HaParva. That's what there's other interpretations on it. The Kohen Gadol used to use that room on Yom Kippur.
Not the waste that they made it,
Yeah. At any rate, that's the. Okay. We went from Nicanor's gate to this.
Yeah, it's called no hate.
By the way, before we kind of step in, right beside this door, these gates here, this big gate, there were two storerooms where the Leviim, the Levites, used to store their instruments.
David.
The band room.
The band room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's David's room.
David's room, yeah.
Right.
Because every time there was a sacrifice, it was accompanied by song. One of the jobs, in fact, of the Levites, the Kohen did the service, but the Levi would do the song. And there were vocalists and instrumentalists. There were many, the Rambam describes, there were many instruments, which ones exactly, and there was a certain number, so it shouldn't, because you have to kind of equalize the sound, and he gives the exact thing. So they used to store it over here. Now, once you crossed in to the main temple courtyard, you're assuming a whole new level of holiness. Not everybody can go past over here. Anybody with ritual impurity of any sort couldn't go in.
Israelites?
Israelites could go in,
Could.
but only for the first 11 amas.
Oh,
Amma?
11?
11.
22 feet?
Maximum, some are 17, 22 feet.
Oh, wow.
So across the width, the entire width was open for Israelites at a extension, a depth, let's call it, of 17 to 22 feet. This is where we all stood on Yom Kippur. It's unfathomable to think about it.
So it's a little bit of segregation.
It was,
room.
huh?
There was always room.
And there was always room. It was cramped like you can't even imagine.
Like 770.
Yes. Pirkei Avot, it says, Omdim tzfufim mishtachavim revachim. They stood squished, but when it was time to prostrate themselves, everybody had enough space.
Do they say how many people?
It doesn't say. Oh, here, you could see it on page 222. If you check page 222, they have it, better, the artwork is better delineated. That gray line in the beginning there, that's the demarcation line for the regular Jews. Once you went past that line, only a Kohen could cross that line.
And the Levites?
Not even the Levites.
Wow.
No Levite or Israelite is to be found past that line.
Wow.
But their music could be heard.
Yes, and they would stand on that line. There was a type of a platform. It's unclear exactly how it looked. There's different opinions about it. But they would stand there and play. On that line, there was a little that was their stage, essentially, yeah. The only time an Israelite can cross that line is if a sacrifice of his is being brought. Because when you bring a sacrifice, you need to stand next to it throughout the entire time. So as a regular Jew, you were allowed to cross with the Kohen, who's doing your thing.
But you had to go with the color.
I mean, think about it like an employees only sign, okay? Literally, that's what it is. After you pass the line, it's employees only. Kohanim are serving, and that's where they go. Everybody else, your visitors, you stay in the visitors center.
Higher security clearance.
Huh? Yeah.
The key card to get in.
I'm sure in the future temple, we always talk about this, how is modern technology going to kind of fuse with, because for example, one of the big things that the Kohanim had to deal with on a daily basis was that they were walking barefoot. It's forbidden to have any intervening substance between the Kohen's foot and the stone floor. The stone floor is cold. Wintertime, it's for sure cold. On top of a mountain, it's very cold. So the thing with the floor, so they always had a doctor on site because he was dealing with these ailments. So today we talk about, will they have heated floors? Because you can do that. There's no problem to heat a floor.
Right. Wow.
Maybe there'll be security sensors, like
Exactly.
Kohen sensors. You gotta walk through and you have an app, thumb printed. If you're a Kohen,
Permit floor heating.
huh?
Maybe they'll permit floor heating.
That's what I'm saying. Floor heating, and then
Automatic. At home, I have it just goes. It's on an automatic sensor. When it reaches a certain temperature, it goes off by itself.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's the story of this courtyard right here. Past that line, it was only Kohanim. In that area, if you can see on page 222, in that area of the temple courtyard, you had basically whatever was needed for the sacrificial service. Oh, one of the temple gates.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
blood.
There's one here.
It's the destruction of the temple. What am I supposed to do? What can I do?
Right in front of him.
How easy it is?
I don't know.
As soon as he sees
He's going to tell me it is missing there. So you have over here, in this model, you only have the Mizbeach, the altar. But if you see on the picture, there's the Mizbeach, and then there's all those little circles next to it. See those little circles?
Yeah.
So what those were actually was rings, circular rings that partially went into the ground with an opening in between. I have to really show it on video for you to maybe get it, but there was a part of if you slaughter a cow, okay, you have to have it locked in place. Otherwise it could thrash around and it's dangerous. So they would use these rings they would flip the animal, and then they would insert the animal's head inside the ring. But the way the ring was done, they would open up the ring. So there was an opening. You put the head through, then you kind of close it.
Oh, so they were like,
Huh? Kind of like a horseshoe,
So they were like this.
except that it was rotatable.
This is after the animal was sacrificed.
Huh? No. This is before. They would flip there was a lot of Kohens involved in this. They would flip the animal, put it right in the place of the ring, and
And how many
put the ring back
animals
down.
at one time? Because there are a lot of rings.
There's 24 rings.
So was it?
No, 24 rings was because there was 24 families of Kohanim.
Ah,
Every week, a different family would come inside
and use their ring.
and use their ring.
Their ring. Wow.
Use their ring.
Wow. Charlie.
It was your family's ring.
Is Dennis concentrating?
Besides for David, who's a Kohen. I don't know if you have any other Kohanim in the house. Any other Kohanim in the house? No. Anyone else a Kohen besides for David? Okay, I'm going to be a Kohen when Mashiach comes. Did you know that?
No.
Firstborn sons are going to recapture their right. Okay. Who else is a firstborn son? Firstborn son meaning you're born first, no sisters older than you. You're the firstborn son. Okay, so hold on. We have a bunch of future Kohanim over here. Yes, we're going to reclaim our role. And, oh yeah, you're right. The Levites are going to become Kohanim also when Mashiach comes.
Charlie and I.
Charlie and you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very important to know these laws because you're going to be any day you're going to be called upon. But okay. Next to the rings was these little tables. You can't really see them again from up top, but they were used for skinning the sacrifices after they were slaughtered. You skin them and you wash them over there. And then next week we'll kind of zoom in onto the pink. But I want to finish with one Mashiach-related thought. It says for Kohanim, okay, and for all those of us that are going to be Kohanim.
Yes.
One of the laws pertaining to Kohanim is that you're not allowed to serve while drunk. Under the influence, you cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash. If you had a drink, you have to wait till it wears off. And the way that it's defined in Jewish law is an 18 to 24 minute walk.
For one drink. So if you have two drinks...
No, to wear off drunkenness. To wear off drunkenness, that's light. Not talking about, complete intoxication. And between 18 and 24 minutes walk.
Okay.
That's it, no more Kiddush Club.
And the Rambam says that any Kohen that knows which family he belongs to,
Yes.
so he would know which week his family was serving in the temple, even today that we don't have a temple, during that week, he is forbidden to drink wine. Because Mashiach could come, and he'll be called on to serve, and he needs to be ready. It's not a mystical Zohar. This is in the Rambam, like the legal law. It says you can't, Mashiach's going to come. So the Rebbe said, think about it. How long does it take to get rid of your drunkenness? Between 18 and 24 minutes. That means that at this very second, from the time we're sitting here in this room, till the temple is rebuilt and ready to go, must be less than 24 minutes. Because otherwise a Kohen should be allowed to drink wine and just walk it off.
That's the least amount of time.
Yes, that shows you that Mashiach we can be ready to go
Charlie, it's a good thing.
in 18, 24 minutes.
Firstborn male can't drink if they know.
No, because we don't. There's a little caveat. The Rambam says that nowadays, since we don't know which family we belong to, so the problem becomes the solution. Now you can drink whenever, and when Mashiach will come, you'll have to figure out which family. Yeah, you'll figure out which family you're in.
No.
But that's how we have to think about
We're
it.
ready to go.
We have to think about Mashiach as that real, and especially because the final temple, as we know it, is not going to be built by human beings.
Huh?
It's going to come straight down from heaven.
Wow.
And we'll talk about it more next week about that. There's a big contradiction. Some books say Mashiach's going to build it. Some books say we're going to build it. Some books say it's going to come straight from heaven, and we're going to see the Rebbe has a whole thing how to resolve it.
About it. Even though we're not going to build it.
That's right, because this is how we add the bricks upstairs.
Spiritually.
Alan wanted to lay bricks before. He's very adamant about laying the bricks. When we learn about it, we lay the bricks. And we learned about it tonight. We laid a bunch of more bricks.
Yeah, but if we're going to have a permanent structure, let Hashem build it.
That's exactly part of the reason why, by the way.
What?
He says if we're going to have a permanent structure, let Hashem build it. And that is, the Zohar says, in order for the temple to be a temple of infinity, infinity has to build it. So,
Makes sense.
you know what? From there, let's just hand it off to Hashem. Let's just say He builds it, brings it, and we go to the temple with Mashiach
You broke it.
speedily in our days. There you go. You broke it. You fix it. Bigger and better than before. L'chaim to that. Amen.